What's the worst high-speed train you've ever been on? Maybe you've had an uncomfortable seat for a long journey, or got caught up in delays for hours, or experienced a very rough ride. Well, this new Spanish train has all that and more. Today, I'll be showing you around the brand new Talgo Avril, highlighting just what makes this awful new train the worst in the business. It's going to be a rough and uncomfortable ride, so join me and buckle up. Hello and welcome back to another video. Today I'm outside of Madrid-Chamartín station in the capital of Spain, and I'm going to be travelling on Spain's newest high-speed train. I'm taking the Renfe Talgo Avril up to Gijón. Now, I've heard a lot of negative things about this train, so I'm looking forward to trying it out myself. And for this journey I've booked a premium first class ticket. Let's go! Madrid-Chamartín is one of the Spanish capital's two main stations, and at the time of filming was a construction site too. It wasn't easy to find my way in or around this station despite the signposts, so I'd suggest arriving extra early. For example, the station's ticket office was actually found just outside, as an afterthought, though most people will have booked online anyway. You can also find a few restaurants and cafes out here, though some were closed at this early hour. But enough about the construction works, it's time to head inside. Madrid-Chamartín feels a lot like an airport inside, with lots of queuing in this dimly lit space. Here you can find a sweet shop and a small cafe, though these were both closed. If you were really desperate though, there are some vending machines, thankfully. All passengers departing this station must first pass through a security check and luggage scan. Despite the long queues, this only took around 2 minutes. Once through security, there are a few more food outlets, but like the others, these are not open. The station also has a distinct lack of suitable seating for the many passengers travelling at this hour. But luckily, with my premium first class ticket, I get access to the Renfe Sala Club Lounge. This offers an oasis of calm away from the chaos of the main station concourse. There's also a small selection of complimentary snacks and drinks, which was certainly appreciated as I hadn't yet had breakfast. You'll also find a selection of local Spanish magazines, free to read while in the lounge. Whilst a relatively small space, there's a selection of comfortable seats in different configurations, and even a conference room that can be closed off when needed. Following a bit of relaxation, it's time to head down to my train. My train today is AVE 4061, the 0658 train to Gijón in the north of Spain. Much like the front of the station, the platforms are also under heavy reconstruction works. Hopefully the station will be a lot nicer once this is all finished. My train departs from track 19, though for some reason we've been directed to 20. Not to worry though, as there's a bridge quite literally across the tracks. Here we join another queue and finally get through to the train. And after all that, we get a first glimpse of today's high-speed ride, the brand new Talgo Avril. These high-speed trains entered service just a few months ago, having been ordered by Renfe, Spain's national train operator, about 8 years prior. With a top speed of 330 kilometres an hour, the fleet runs on Renfe's premium AVE services in the north of Spain, and also sees use on their budget AVLO services throughout the country. The Avril was constructed by Talgo, a Spanish train manufacturer with a unique design. Instead of using bogies such as this one around the wheels, Talgo has just 2 wheels between each carriage, with the carriages being shorter to accommodate for this design. This has the major advantage of allowing these trains to have a low floor, making them much more accessible. However, there's also a huge problem with this design, as I'll show you once we get moving. I'm travelling in Renfe Premium today, which is the equivalent of first class. Surprisingly, this is in a 2+2 layout, meaning there are no single seats. I've reserved coach 1, seat 8A, a forward-facing window seat. Today's route sees us heading north out of Madrid, running on one of Spain's many high-speed lines. From Leon, we'll change to Iberian broad gauge before continuing through the mountains to Gijón. Journey time is scheduled to be 3 hours and 36 minutes, covering 476 kilometres or about 296 miles. We depart a few minutes late at 0701, beginning the journey on Spain's newest train. Renfe already has a lot of other Talgo high-speed trains, and indeed a lot of these can be seen on our way out of Madrid, especially when we pass the depot. Heading north, we race some of Madrid's commuter trains, but not for long, as only 5 minutes out of the capital, we're already on the dedicated high-speed line. Even now, this train is experiencing a harsh, rough ride, bonking around all over the place. This is a common feature of Talgo trains worldwide, as the singular set of wheels between carriages makes you feel every single bump. There's a spectacular sunrise on display this morning, and the ever-changing landscape made this a really beautiful journey. But for now, let's turn our attention to the interior of the train. I mentioned earlier that Premium is in a 2+2 layout, which is unusual for a European high-speed train. Just wait until you see second class a bit later on. These seats are not comfortable at all. There's barely any padding available, and the seats were insanely hard. The ergonomics also weren't great, and there's a very thin headrest cushion that can be folded over to provide a better shape. Each seat gets a pair of adjustable armrests, though like the seat itself, these were hard and uncomfortable. For legroom, these trains are excellent, and there's certainly a lot of space to spread out. And whilst the seats themselves are very narrow, you still get a lot of space to the sides too. The seat in front has a folding footrest as shown here, and just above this is a small net for your personal items. My seatback table looks tiny at first, but once you fold it down, some clever design actually results in a very large surface. On the table is a groove for holding a drink, and some rubber pads to support a phone or tablet. There's also an elastic strap attached to it. If you know what this is for, please tell me in the comments. Lastly, beneath you can find a lever for the seat's recline. This was extremely limited and barely worth even having. Another aspect where this train totally fails to provide a comfortable experience. Remember, this is supposed to be first class on a premium high-speed train. Back outside, we are now speeding through the station of Segovia-Guiomar. This town is served only by slower high-speed services, such as the Avant trains. My premium ticket includes an onboard meal, and at around 7:30, this was being served up. The meal comes as a set on a tray, but you can also ask for bread and croissants. Both soft drinks and hot drinks are included too.
Yes, please.
My meal today was a tray of heated vegetables, and a colourless and depressing looking one at that too. Admittedly, it tasted better than it looked, but I can't say I was impressed. I also chose to have one of these sad and dry croissants alongside some bread and butter, with a tasty fruit salad too. Honestly, this was the best part of the meal. For drinks, I chose an orange juice and a black tea. This section of the Madrid Norte high-speed rail line opened in 2007, connecting Madrid with Valladolid. With a maximum operational speed of 300 km an hour, it cut journey times between the two cities from 2.5 hours to under 1 hour. Impressive. And sure enough, just 50 minutes later, we slow down to serve Valladolid Campo Grande. This is probably one of my favourite stations in Spain, retaining its classic design and impressive overall roof. Valladolid is a major city with around 300,000 people and dates back around 1,000 years. Following our brief stop, the train once again begins accelerating up to this route's top speed of 300 km an hour. Something I've neglected to mention until now is just how noisy this train is. This was headache-inducing throughout the entire journey, but was at its worst in tunnels.
This train is so noisy. Like really loud.
We traverse a few flying junctions over other railway routes on approach to our next station. This is Palencia, and in the platform next to us you can see another Talgo Avril headed south. I have to be honest, despite all this train's many flaws, it certainly does look good from the outside. Anyway, as the Talgo Avril rattles and shakes its way forwards, let's go and have a look around the rest of the train. Many toilets can be found throughout the train, located here in the vestibules next to the doors. As you'd expect for a brand new high-speed train, these modern vacuum toilets were in good condition and kept very clean. The soap dispenser was working fine, as was the water. A strong hand dryer was provided too. Now let's move on to second class. This is in a 2+3 seating layout, making it denser than any other high-speed train in Europe. This layout is made possible thanks to the extra wide body shell of the Talgo Avril, as a result of having shorter carriages. I don't think I'd want to do a long journey in the middle seat, surrounded by strangers. It's honestly just as bad as a plane, which is the main competitor of the Renfe AVE. In Carriage 5, you can find the train's wheelchair accessible zone. This features 2 wheelchair spaces as shown here, and an accessible toilet. And the next carriage is the train's onboard cafe bar. I quite liked the open design of this carriage, with the high-level windows letting in a lot of natural light. There was a varied selection of sandwiches, snacks and chilled drinks on display here, with hot drinks available from the machine. And for those seated far away from the cafe bar, there are vending machines in some of the carriages too. For the entire journey so far, we've been travelling on the international standard track gauge of 1435mm. Much of Spain's railway network uses a different gauge, the Iberian broad gauge, including our destination of Gijón. And this is one of the key selling points of the Talgo Avril. It's actually capable of switching between these gauges in just a few minutes, making it the fastest train in the world capable of doing so. The gauge changer requires a very low speed, and we slow down to a crawl. Just seconds later, our train has changed from standard gauge to Iberian gauge. Such impressive technology. The Iberian gauge network is a very different scene from the high-speed railway, as we share the track with regional services and freight trains. But even at a slow pace, the train's ride has somehow got even rougher than before. This station is León, which opened in 2011 to replace the old León Norte station. 2 of its platforms are underground, to allow high-speed trains to continue north. The Talgo Avril is well appointed when it comes to luggage storage, with large overhead luggage racks throughout the carriage. All carriages also have sizable luggage stacks, an important provision as these small carriages can seat up to 54 people. Each passenger gets a European-style plug socket, found here between the seats. There's also a USB socket located on the seatback screen, though more about those later on. All windows are fitted with effective sunblinds. Unlike most modern trains, this one is fitted with subdued lighting, resulting in a very nice ambience. However, if you wish, then you can use the incredibly bright individual reading lights found above. We are now travelling through the Cantabrian Mountains, located in northern Spain. This is the newest section of high-speed line in Spain, having just opened in November 2023. Unfortunately though, it's also one of its most boring, as despite the occasional glances at these stunning mountains, 80% of this line is in tunnels. Since changing gauge, the ride quality on the Talgo Avril has somehow got worse. Just look at how much it's shaking my water around. After half an hour of high-speed running, we once again rejoin the traditional regional railways weaving through the mountains. This station is La Pola, and with a population of just 9,000, it sees just one high-speed train per day. Even at just 50 kilometers an hour, the Talgo Avril makes a serious amount of noise and offers an unpleasantly rough ride. The gangways were even louder still. If I was staff working on this train, I'd demand ear protection. These trains are fitted with free Wi-Fi, but even this wasn't without its issues. To sign up, you need to provide a mobile number and get a verification text, but this took over an hour to come through. Once connected, the speeds were actually very fast. Another form of entertainment is the seatback screens. This offers a selection of movies, music and games, but when I say selection, it really is a tiny choice, with just 6 movies available when I travelled. There was actually no music available at all, or books, or games. However, you could at least look at a couple of photos with the word description next to them. What a pointless feature these screens are. From my personal observations, nobody was actually interested in using these screens during the journey, with the one exception being to use the moving map. I feel that these entertainment screens would have been really exciting when these trains were ordered back in 2016, but nowadays, in the times where everyone has a smartphone in their pocket, it's a waste of money. And speaking of money, these trains are actually so bad that Renfe has asked Talgo for financial compensation due to their terrible quality. The last straw was an incident where people were stuck underground for 3 hours, with no air conditioning or electricity. This station is Oviedo. Here you can change for the Renfe FEV network, a series of narrow gauge lines serving towns and cities across northern Spain. Now let's talk about how much this journey cost. I booked a few weeks in advance and paid €71.80 one way for my premium ticket. Despite being first class, I don't think this is good value for money. The seat and high density remind me of second class on a commuter train, and the lackluster meal service doesn't make up for this shortcoming. The last thing I see out of the window on this train is a bunch of old Talgo carriages rotting away in the sidings. A fitting metaphor for today's awful journey. We finally arrive into Gijón with a delay of just 4 minutes at 10:38. I'm just glad we didn't break down. In conclusion, the new Talgo Avril is a horrific and terrible new train. Easily the worst true high-speed train I've ever been on, by a lot. The seating layout is too dense for what is meant to be a premium train. The seats themselves are awful and belong on a commuter route, and the ride is extremely rough and unpleasant. And with the terrible faults and problems these trains are experiencing, it really is an absolute disaster. This train was a huge disappointment, but not all trains in the country are like this. So to experience the best high-speed train in Spain, then click up here now to watch my video on Irio.